So your eyes do not deceive you. This is a watch box in front of me. Now, I did tease a couple of months ago that I was looking at the JLC Reverso. Spoiler alert, this is not a JJ Lecoultre watch. I couldn't justify spending that kind of money, to be honest. This is a more affordable watch, with the caveat that we are talking about Swiss luxury watches. So everything is ridiculously expensive. And let's have no further suspense. Let's take off the white sleeve and show that this is a watch by Tudor, which is otherwise known as Rolex's little brother. It's part of the same company, the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation. It was founded by Wilsdorf about 20 years after he started Rolex. And yes, it was designed to create more affordable watches than Rolex. I don't like the fact that some people dismiss it as a poor man's Rolex. I think some of the things that Tudor do, some of the designs, some of the watches they do are stuff that Rolex would never do. I think they definitely have a place in the market. They also have a long history of supplying military watches. And in terms of bang for buck, and again, everything being relative, considering that we're talking about overpriced, anachronistic devices, you get a decent watch for a relatively small amount of money with a Tudor watch. So which Tudor watch did I buy? Now, the weird thing is, I had no intention of buying this watch. I had no intention of buying any watch, to be honest. As I've said previously, I'm pretty happy with my collection. This is a new version, an updated version of a watch that came out in 2022. So 4 years ago now. And when this watch came out, I dismissed it. I was like, nah, does nothing for me. And here we are 4 years later, and they've made it slightly smaller. They have reduced it from 39 millimeters, there we go, to 36 millimeters. And I know that 3 millimeters does not sound like a lot and should not, in the grand scheme of things, make that much difference. But the smaller Tudor Ranger just screamed to me when I saw it on display. And the moment I tried it on, the moment I made the mistake of asking to try it on, oh, that's a bezel protector there, I felt that I needed to have this watch. I think it was the dial on the previous version. Everything just looked too spaced out. At 36 millimeters, it feels appropriately proportioned. So let's do the quick spec check. And in fact, let's take it off its cushion. You'll see it's still got all of the original stickers on, so we'll peel those off in a moment, and inevitably I might have to use the beauty of editing, because that could take a while. Yeah, so 36 millimeter case size. It is 11 millimeters thick, so slightly smaller than the version that came out in 2022. 44 millimeter lug to lug, so it sits very comfortably on the wrist. I have relatively small wrists, 6.5 inch wrists. And the lug width is 19 millimeters, which you could say is slightly annoying, although I find, generally speaking, that most 20 millimeter leather straps and most 20 millimeter NATO straps work pretty well with 19 millimeter lug width. I have the Omega Speedmaster Ed White version, which also has 90 millimeter lugs, and I have no problem using 20 millimeter straps with that. Slightly domed sapphire crystal. Again, this is a watch with a vintage aesthetic. We'll talk more about that in a moment. 100 meters of water resistance, solid sterile case back, powered by Tudor's MT5400 movement. It's COSC certified, which means it's super accurate for an automatic watch. And it has 70 hours of power reserve. You will notice that it is brushed stainless steel. This is a tool watch. So now we come on to the aesthetic of this watch. I'm a big fan of the Rolex Explorer, and clearly this is a watch, and the original Ranger, I should say, which goes back decades, was a cheaper version of the Rolex Explorer. But while the modern Rolex Explorer has a modern aesthetic, and I would argue is a little bit blingy, it's become more of a kind of stylish watch. I guess the kind of classic go anywhere, do anything watch, which can be worn with evening attire as well as kind of being an everyday daily wear. This is clearly still a tool watch. And also, if we look at the Arabics at 12, 3, 6, and 9, it looks a lot more like the original Rolex Explorers of the 1950s and 60s than the modern Explorer. And my personal favorite Explorer, there's a James Bond connection, there's always a Bond connection. Ian Fleming wore a Rolex Explorer 1016, which looks very, very similar to this modern Tudor Ranger. And that is the watch. When Fleming wrote in the books about Bond having a Rolex, when he talked about him wearing a Rolex in the novel On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it was always implicit that he was talking about the Explorer. It was in the movies that he wore the Submariner. I think because Sean Connery was wearing Cubby Broccoli's watch in Dr. No. Yes, so I will now remove the stickers. So prepare to see this watch in all of its glory. Okay, one last sticker to remove from the case back. And there we are. By the way, memo to Switzerland. I understand you want to put all these stickers on to protect the watch and the bracelet. I wonder how many people have actually scratched or damaged their watches removing stickers. I think I did an okay job with this, but honestly, it is a pain in the you-know-what. So yeah, I don't normally wear my watches on bracelets, or rarely do, but I actually intend to wear this on the bracelet. Mainly because it has Tudor's T-Fit clasp, which has this amazing kind of resizing function, this on-the-fly adjustment, where you can slide this backwards and forwards, you see, to get additional comfort or a tighter fit, depending on where your wrist is at what time of the day. I should say I do need to get this bracelet resized. I'm going to have to go to a Tudor boutique and get it done. I do have the tools at home to do it, but if there's one thing I know about Rolex, and I'm sure it applies to Tudor as well, the screws are in super tight, and you also need a bit of heat to melt the glue they put in as well. So I'm actually going to have it done professionally. I'm going to get this resized. Let's put some wine in it, shall we? So, screw down crown, of course, to give it the water resistance. I think by moving it around, I've woken it up. Okay. Oh yeah. Put some wine in it. And tighten the crown. Now, unlike previous unboxing videos where I've had watches that have complications, you might remember the Mad 1 or the Christopher Ward Belcanto, or even the amazing movement in the back of the Omega Speedmaster, there's not a lot to talk about here. This is a pretty, I'm going to use the word, boring watch. It's time only. There are 0 complications with this watch. There's not even a date window. But that's what I like about it. I just love its simplicity. This, to me, is a pretty cool tool watch. And it definitely has a strong 50s, 60s aesthetic with the slightly patinaed dial and lume, which, again, I really like. And it's so weird that just by being 3 millimeters smaller, this went from being a watch where I was like, meh, to wow. So good job. Although one could argue that really they should have got it right the first time. This probably should have been a 36 millimeter watch the first time they issued it. But for people who don't like small watches, I do believe that the 39 millimeter versions are still available, and they've also released a version with a what they call Dune white dial as well. But I like the classic white or slightly off-white on black. It will need to be resized, but at least this gives you an idea of how it looks on my wrist. Yeah, it was one of those where as soon as I tried it on in the boutique, I was like, yes, yes, please. But I will get this resized, and then I will give you some proper sexy wrist shots. So here we are 24 hours later. The bracelet has been resized, and this is what the Tudor Ranger looks like on my 6.5-inch wrist. I thought I'd come outside and show it off in natural light. Couple of things to say. First, shout out to the staff at the Tudor Boutique at Westfield Century City. Top-notch service, very friendly, 10 out of 10. Secondly, I set the correct time on this yesterday. So it's been running for 24 hours. It has not gained or lost a single second. It is spot on, and that is pretty impressive. I love the way this looks. I'm very happy with this purchase, which will probably, hopefully, be the last in a while, but you never can tell.